quarter 3 under Sabbath to study guide called Exodus. And today we will listen to called Rough Start. On Sabbath afternoon, let's read the following verses and chapters. Exodus chapter 5 from verse 1 to 23, Revelation 11 verse 8, Exodus 6 from verse 1 to 13, Psalm 73 from verse 23 to 26, 2 Corinthians chapter 6 verse 16, Exodus chapter 6 from verse 28 up to chapter 7 and chapter 7 verse 7. Now it takes after Moses and Aaron went in and told the Pharaoh, thus said the Lord God of Israel, let my people go that they may obey the feast to me in the wilderness. And Pharaoh said, who is the Lord that I should obey his voice to let Israel go? I do not know the Lord, nor I let Israel go. Exodus 5 verse 1 to 2. Many believers think that when one decides to follow God, he or she will experience only happiness, prosperity, and success. That's not necessarily the case. However, as the Bible itself often shows, sometimes many obstacles appear as well as no difficulties. This can be very frustrating and it prompts hard questions that always don't have easy answers, or it seems any answers at all. Those who trust in God face numerous trials. When we persevere, however, God brings solutions that come on His terms and in His time. His ways may conflict with our expectations for quick and instantaneous solutions, but we must learn to trust Him regardless. That's the topic for this week. Moses and the command to lead God's people out of Egypt, about as clear a call for God as anyone could have. Indeed, it included miracles as well as God Himself, speaking directly to Moses and letting him know exactly what He wanted Moses to do. How much easier then would it have been for Moses, knowing that he had been called by God and even given a specific task? It would have been simple then, right? Listen on, dear friends. On Sunday, we have the topic, who is the Lord? Following God's orders, Moses goes to Pharaoh to begin the process in which Moses would bring my people, the children of Israel, out of Egypt. Exodus 3, verse 10. What was Pharaoh's response to God's demand? Let my people go. See Exodus 5, verse 1 to 2. And what significance can be found in this response? Who is the Lord? Pharaoh declares, not in any desire to know Him, but instead as an act of defiance or even denial of this God, whom he admits that he does not know. I do not know the Lord, he says, almost as a boast. How many people throughout history have uttered the same thing? How tragic, because as Jesus Himself said, and this is life eternal, that they might know thee, the only true God, and Jesus Christ, whom thou hast sent. John 7, verse 3. Egypt, with the Pharaoh as king, is symbolic of a power that denies God's presence and authority. It is an entity that stands in opposition to God, His word, and His people. Pharaoh's next declaration, that I will not let Israel go, reveals even more this rebellion against the living God, further making Egypt a symbol not only for the denial of God, but for a system that fights against Him. No wonder many saw this same attitude millennia later in the French Revolution. See also Isaiah chapter 30, verse 1 to 3, and Revelation chapter 11, verse 8. Pharaoh thought he was a god or the son of a god, a broad reference to a belief in one's own supreme power, strength, and intelligence. Of all nations presented in Bible history, Egypt most boldly denied the existence of the living God and resisted His commands. No monarch ever ventured upon more open-handed, high-handed rebellion against the authority of heaven than did the king of Egypt. When the message was brought to him by Moses in the name of the Lord, Pharaoh proudly answered, who is Jehovah, that I should hearken unto His voice to let Israel go? I know not Jehovah, and moreover, I will not let Israel go. Exodus 5, verse 2. This is atheism, and the nation represented by Egypt would give voice to a similar denial of the claims of the living God and would manifest a like spirit of unbelief and defiance. We find this in the great controversy time by the servant of the Lord, Ellen G. White. If someone asks, do you know the Lord? How do you respond? If yes, what do you say is like and why? Let's move on to Monday. A rough start is the subtopic. Though Moses must have known, even from the beginning, that what the Lord had tasked him with was not going to be easy. Hence his attempt to get out of it. He probably had no idea of what was coming. Read Exodus 5 from verse 3 to 23. What were the immediate results of Moses and Aaron's first recorded encounter with Pharaoh? Even before going to Pharaoh, Moses and Aaron gathered the elders and people of Israel, told them God's words, and showed them God's signs, which resulted in Israel's believing that the Lord would deliver them from their slavery. Thus they worshiped the Lord. Exodus 4, from verse 29 to 31. Expectations surely were high. The Lord was going to deliver the Hebrew people from their bondage. Finally, Moses then went to the king of Egypt with God's demands, and things became even worse for the Israelites. Their suffering increased, and their daily labor became more burdensome and demanding. They were accused of being lazy. They were treated more harshly, and their service became more difficult than it had already been. Their leaders were not happy, and the confrontation between them and Moses and Aaron was ugly. And as we will later see, it simply portended the kind of conflicts Moses would have with his own people for years to come. Read Exodus chapter 5, verse 21. And then put yourself in the place of these men as they confronted Moses and Aaron. Why would they say what they did? It's not that hard to see why they would have been upset with Moses. Let the Lord look on you and judge, they said. They thought Moses was coming to free them from the Egyptians, not to make their lives under the Egyptians even harder. Thus, besides dealing with the Egyptians, Moses and Aaron had to deal with their own people as well. What are some better ways you and others might be able to deal with local church leaders with disagreement when disagreements arise, as they inevitably do? On Tuesday, we have subtopic the divine eye. Poor Moses. He first gets berated by Pharaoh, and now his own people. Oh, but curse him. Thus Moses brings his complaint to God. In his bitterness and disappointment with the worsening of Israel's condition, he asks, why, Lord? Why have you brought trouble on these people? Is this why you sent me? Ever since I went to Pharaoh to speak in your name, he has brought trouble on the people, and you have not rescued your people at all. Exodus 5, from verse 22 to 23. Moses' discontent with the Lord is obvious, and considering the situation, understandable. God's response, though, is powerful. He will act and very decisively as well. Now you will see what I will do to Pharaoh. Exodus 6, verse 1. Read Exodus chapter 5, from verse 22 to 6. And from Exodus chapter 5, verse 22 up to Exodus 6, verse 8. What is God's response to Moses, and what important theological truths are revealed here? God will not only speak, he will now mightily intervene in favor of his people. He reminds Moses of a few pertinent facts. Number 1, I'm the Lord. Number 2, I appear to the patriarchs. Number 3, I established my covenant with them. Number 4, I promised to give them the land of Canaan. Number 5, I heard the groaning of the children of Israel. Number 6, I remembered my covenant to give you to the promised land. Notice the repetition of the divine I, the Lord your God. I have done such and such, and so you can trust that I will do for you what I have promised. The Lord now solemnly proclaims that he will do four great things for Israel because he is their living God. Number 1, I will bring you out from under the yoke of the Egyptians. Number 2, I will free you from being slaves to them. Number 3, I will redeem you with an outstretched arm and with mighty acts of judgment. And number four, I will take you as my own people, and I will be your God. Exodus 6, verse 6 up to 7. These four divine actions secure and establish his relationship with his people. God is the subject of all these activities, and Israelites are the recipients of all these benefits and grace. God offers these gifts for free, out of love. He did it then to them, and he does it now for us as well. What other Bible characters have cried out in complaint before God and with God and with good reason? Why is it okay at times to pour out your soul to God and even before complain about your situation? Why though must always do it in faith and in trust? Let's move on to testing and circumcised lips is the subtopic. The Lord had given Moses some powerful promises about what he was going to do. Though that encounter must have encouraged Moses, his encouragement was probably short-lived, given the response that he received from his people. Read Exodus chapter 6, verse 9 to 13. What happened next, and what lessons can you take from this story about times of disappointments and struggle in our lives? The Hebrews are so disheartened by their grief, suffering, and hard labor that they do not listen to Moses' words of reassurance that God will act to fulfill what he promised. They have waited so long for it, and their anticipations have not been met. Why should it be different now? They were losing heart and hope, which must have been even more bitter because perhaps for the first in all their lifetime, they saw real hope of deliverance. And yet, who hasn't been in a similar place? Who hasn't at some point he felt depressed, disappointed, dissatisfied, even abandoned by God? Remember the story of Job. What does Asaph, a psalmist who struggled with these questions regarding the prosperity of the wicked and the suffering of the righteous, yet regardless of his struggles, Asaph is one of the most beautiful confessions of faith. Yet I am always with you. You hold me by my right hand. You guide me with your counsel, and afterward you take me into glory. Whom have I in heaven but you? And earth is nothing I desire besides you. My flesh and my heart may fail, but God's is the strength of my heart and my portion forever. Psalm 73, verse 23 up to 26. Through sacred history, God has assured his people that he is with them. See Isaiah 41, verse 13, and Matthew 28, verse 20. He gives them his peace, his comfort, and he strengthens them to make through life's challenges. John 14, verse 27, John 16, verse 33, Philippians 4, from verse 6 to 7. The covenant formula, I will take you as my people, and I will be your God. Exodus 6, verse 7. Expresses the intimate relationship that the Lord wanted to have with his people. Think through the phrase, I will take you as my people, and I will be your God. Exodus 6, verse 7. Though the context was corporate, how does this apply to each one of us individually, and how should this relationship be manifested in our daily lives? See also 2 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 16. What a powerful question, isn't it, difference? Let's move on to Thursday. Like God to Pharaoh, that's the subtopic. Read Exodus chapter 6 from verse 28 to 7. Exodus chapter 6, verse 28 up to Exodus chapter 7, verse 7. How does the Lord deal with Moses' objection? God presents himself to Moses as Yahweh, which means that he is the personal and close God, the God of his people, and the God who entered a covenantal relationship with them. The immanent God again commands Moses to go and speak to Pharaoh. With a lack of self-confidence, Moses again objects, why would Pharaoh listen to me? Here again, we can see not just Moses' humility, but again, his desire to get out of the wicked task, which so far has not gone too well. When God ordered Moses to go back to Pharaoh, Moses showed self-distrust. The term around Sephatayim, literally uncircumcised lips, which is used here to express Moses' level of speaking ability. Chapter 6, verse 20, verse 12, and verse 30 is similar to that found in Exodus chapter 4, verse 10, slow of speech. We can see this in Andrew's Bible, the commentary of Old Testament of Exodus, which was published by the Berean Springs by Mount Andrews University Press 2020, page 205. God in his mercy gives Aaron to help Moses. Moses will speak to Aaron, who will then speak publicly to Pharaoh. Thus Moses will play the role of God before the Egyptian king, and Aaron will be his prophet. This account provides an excellent definition for the role of a prophet. A prophet is a spokesperson for God. He or she is his mouthpiece to transmit and interpret God's word to his people. As Moses spoke to Aaron, and then Aaron announced it to Pharaoh, so God communicates with the prophet, who then proclaims God's teaching to his people. This can happen verbally, in person, or it was most commonly done. The prophet received the message from God and then wrote it down. God also explains to Moses what he can expect from the encounters with Pharaoh. He warns him that the confrontation will be tense and long. For the second time, God says to Moses that Pharaoh will be very stubborn and that he will harden his heart. Exodus 4, verse 21 and Exodus 7, verse 3. The result, however, will end in something good, for the Egyptians will know that I am the Lord. Exodus 7, verse 5. That is, even amid the chaos and that follows, God will be glorified. Moses ran out of excuses for not following what God had called him to do. What excuses might we use to try to get out of what we know God wants us to do? Look at how badly things started out for Moses and his people after. Moses first approached Pharaoh. The king thoroughly roused, suspected the Israelites of a desire to revolt from his service. This affection was the result of idleness. He would see that no time was left them for dangerous scheming, and at once adopted measures to tighten their bonds and crush out their independent spirit. The same day orders were issued that rendered their labor so cruel and oppressive. The most common building material of that country was sun-dried brick. The walls of the finest offices were made of this, and then faced with stone, and the manufacture of brick employed great numbers of the bondmen. Cut straw, big eater mix with clay to bring together large quantities of straw when were required to work. The king now directed that no straw but be finished. The laborers must find it for themselves, while the same amount of brick should be exacted. The order produced great distress among the Israelites throughout the land. The Egyptian taskmasters had appointed Hebrew officers to oversee the work for the people, and these officers were responsible for the labor performed by those under their charge. When the requirement of the king was put in force, the people scattered themselves throughout the land to gather the stubble instead of straw, but they found it impossible to accomplish the usual amount of labor. For this failure, the Hebrew officers were cruelly beaten. Ellen G. White, published in Proverbs, page 258. May God bless you, dear friends. I encourage you, dear friends, to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. By so doing, you are going to do the work of evangelist. Many people are going to see our videos, and their reading is going to be increased. Don't forget to click on the notification icon to be alerted for more video uploads. May God bless you. Share these videos, watch them, and spread them to one and all. And many people are going to be saved as we hasten the second coming of our Lord. As we listen and share what we are going to garner from the book of Exodus in this quarter 3 Adult Sabbath Start. May God bless you.